Greetings in the name of Jah, Rastafari. 107, Jah bless. He asked us to buy this book, Danger Close, by Patrick Byrne. He was rather emphatic about it, saying that Nino's audience would benefit and appreciate having this knowledge. Well, he was absolutely right, and it's an incredible read. By the way, 107 is back in the Pacific Rim. He's done 2 interviews recently. One was with a group from Australia, and the other was Nino's Corner. And his demeanor is more tense. His message is very dire, because he knows what's coming. He calls it a near-death experience. Always reminds us it's not a bad hair day. But what he's preparing for and preparing us for is the Black Swan. And that's why he's in the Pacific Rim. He tells us that it comes out of Brazil, lands in Japan, and that's when the dominoes begin to tumble. So he's in position to help manage the coming banking collapse and a global currency reset. That's what he's doing in Japan and Hong Kong, so he's in the Pacific Rim. Now, Juan has always lauded Patrick Byrne, and I've followed him too for a really long time. But remember specifically, not too long back, when he broke the story about the DOJ prosecutor from Miami picking up on the story to indict Smartmatic of Venezuela in a lawsuit that was brought by the country of the Philippines, saying that their election had been stolen, frauded. So Patrick was on the cutting edge of that and many other things. You know, he's one of the leading people to do with the voting machines, and he's just like a champion all along. For the cost of a pizza, I bought this book. I probably consumed it about as fast because it is so engaging right from the start. It's unlike anything you'll ever read. Juan is right. You will feel really appreciative to have this information, and I'll put a link down below. But yeah, it's called Danger Close. The foreword is by General Michael Flynn, and the preface is by Maria Butina, who's kind of the key player in the story. But I'm not going to spoil any of it for you. You know, my thinking is it kept making me think about Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu, which is like a book of virtue, and it's all these little short stories of morals, and it's filled with you know, this overview that Patrick really is and has self-discipline, compassion, responsibility, friendship. He works really hard, courage, perseverance like buckets filled, honesty, loyalty, and a profound love of America. But he comes across, or it reads, as apolitical, because he calls himself a libertarian Republican. So he's not, you know, I would even say he has more of a democratic tendency in this book, but it's just such a cool narrative. The style, it's so stark and candid, because it's like an interview. It's it reads more like a deposition, and it's all where he answers questions and he just lays bare the facts of what he was involved in. So it's only 180 pages because there's no preamble, or he doesn't have to go into setting descriptions and provide character backgrounds and all of that. He just gives sometimes a little bit of a setting and then personal details that are it's quite charming. But all the characters are people that we know already. And it's loaded with characters that we know. And what I thought was really cool too was the one who let him in to the White House, because he shouldn't have been in Trump's presence that night. But it was Garrett from the people that did the great work on Marco Polo on the laptop. But the baseline of the story, and Wano Savin says this too, is that Patrick Byrne was recruited by the US government to operate a sting operation on Hillary Rodham Clinton. And she accepted an $18 million bribe. So we all know that part of it, and you really need to buy the book, because that's just a tiny, tiny part. Because you need to know who and why was he asked to do this sting operation? Who asked him to do it and why? And also his mentor is such a surprise to me and such a delight, actually, and he refers to him as Rabbi. And I won't spoil any of that. You got to find out. It's just mind-boggling. It's so cool. And some of it you probably know already, but the covert stuff he's done is way more cool than James Bond. And it's his drive of virtue and his integrity. So he takes on this challenge to solve this massive mystery, which simply is, who is the deep state? Like, even the operators inside the government were saying, there's some force that's acting here, we want to find out who it is, and they recruit Patrick. And it spins a better yarn than anything you could ever read, like any kind of novel. But everybody probably remembers the evening that Sidney Powell, General Mike Flynn, Lynn Wood was there, and they were all in the Oval Office. Patrick Byrne got led in the side door by Garrett, you know, and so he's in there too. And DJT gives him the chance, say, tell us your thing, and Patrick laid out his whole plan and his strategy, which is genius, and it probably would have worked. And this is where I differ from what the book says, but he says that Rudy Giuliani convinced Trump not to do it. However, I believe that there's this group that Trump remarks before who asked him to run. Whoever it was that asked Trump to run, they're the ones that said you're not doing the Insurrection Act. Because everyone there that night wanted to sign the Insurrection Act because it was so obvious and it was really easy to prove. And what Patrick said is that he had the announcements from the agencies in the government saying that there had been more than enough evidence of malfeasance, and tons of it, as we know. So they had every reason and every right that night they could have signed the Insurrection Act. And that's kind of the central theme of the book. But by no means is it the reason to buy it or to learn about that. That's kind of, it's the Russian collusion delusion. That's what it's all about. And in the book, he really lays bare Rudy Giuliani. Wow. He lays bare Bill Barr and several others, you know. Like I say, I want you to get it. But what's really nice and the best of all is he never lost the respect of this brilliant woman from Russia named Maria Butina. And that's really interesting how and she writes the foreword to the book. And someday she aspires to be the president of Russia. And she's big on peace, and that's why Patrick and her hooked up from the beginning. So he remains loyal to her throughout, and it's amazing. The whole story, it's just incredible. So once again, I'll hold it up, and I really urge you to order this book and get it. And it is the greatest weapon that we have because it's the truth. And with this, we will forward in this generation triumphantly. Thank you for watching.